I'm hearing you too loud and clear.
All right, well, that's good. So I'm just waiting on Brother John to hit the start button and we're good to go. Hello there. It's a Saturday afternoon, and once you hear that soundtrack, you know it is time for the Message to the Grassroots program, the MTTG show.
Oh, okay, back on again.
Hosted by me, Pablo Raphael Paul, and I'm here. Yes, Brother John?
Yes, sir.
Brother John?
Yes, sir.
How's it going there?
Yeah,
We're good to go? We are live?
Yeah, we're good. I just run the track and I just greeting people already, so yeah, we're good.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, I want to say a special good afternoon to all of you who's joining us here on the MTTG show, the Message to the Grassroots program. And I am your host, Pablo Raphael Paul. I expect some of you are joining me for the first time because coming after that video that I had shared, and listen, please share it. Share the live and let other people come in because we are going to have a very serious conversation here this afternoon. But before we get into our scheduled event, I have a special guest here with me this afternoon, and he wants to speak about an event that is critical to us, is critical to our country, and we need to highlight it, okay? We need to sensitize people about that issue. Many of you would have seen posts being made on social media, on Facebook, by Brother Ali Matura, relating to the Livera situation. And we have a brother here with us this afternoon who wants to shed some light on it and to sensitize you about some events that's scheduled to take place in the upcoming week and so on. So I'll allow him to introduce himself. I simply refer to him as Brother Amen. Brother Amen, welcome to the Message to the Grassroots program. Could you unmute your mic as you come in? Yes. And as I call it, the MTTG show. Welcome for the very first time. It's a pleasure to have
The MTTG show. Yes, thank you.
Yes,
thank you,
yes.
Pablo, and thank you, everyone listening to this brief, important, urgent, emergency message. Now, basically, Livera, at the northeastern tip of Grenada, the head of Grenada, the point at which the waters from the northern Atlantic coming down the northeast divides and come down the west coast and the east coast. It's a place of pristine power, a place where a mangrove swamp and a pond, salt pond, a mountain peak with valleys that produce a unique atmosphere with mangroves and woodland that produce a bird called the Grenada dove, the Leptotilia welsey, among other creatures. The Leptotilia welsey is the only bird of its kind on the planet. And its habitat is in Livera. Its last habitat is in Livera, the place that created it, Livera. Mount Hartmann and La Sagesse in the south of Grenada has been destroyed. These were also similar places, creative places with salt ponds near the sea, with headlands, woodlands, mangrove, etc. These were also bulldozed. There's no place for our bird to habitat. The endangered hornbill and leatherback turtles, which nest in Livera, their nesting sites will be turned into a jetty. There is plans for a 500-room, 20-story building, 18-hole golf course to be constructed in Livera site with amenities and facilities to service this, with industrial and runoff waste from vehicle and chemical output, with laundry, water, bleach, and soaps, with sewage for 500 families in a place like Rivera, with apartments with infinity pools built around Piton, going up to the Welcome Stone. The Rivera is being destroyed as we speak, taken from us, and a mega city, a home for Asians, rich Asians on the way to America, is being created by destroying this pristine ecological site. This site has been named a national park in the past. This time is protected by local and international legislation. The Ramsar Treaty in 2012 recognized Grenada Rivera wetlands as one of the precious places on the planet to be preserved for posterity. But unfortunately, our leaders either very ignorant of what they are doing and what Rivera represents and what it is to Grenada as the head, or very trapped in a financial or political or economic trap that they feel they can't escape. The only solution now, because tractoring and bulldozing have started, the only solution now is to gather 10,000 plus of our people, go to Bathway Park and say to our leaders, stop destroying Rivera, halt all construction there. We have alternative economic plans. Yes, we need development, and we have alternative tourism plans that would build in communities around Grenada, community and ecotourism model that would not involve the destruction of Rivera. Now the consequences of the destruction of Rivera is economic, it's social, it's environmental, it's cultural, it's spiritual, and the power, the creative power of Mother Earth that expresses itself in Rivera would be destroyed by us, and the Grenada culture that we born and love and know without knowing why would be lost. It is very important that on Saturday, the 11th of March, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m., as much people as possible in Grenada, bring families, it's a family affair, bring food and drinks, have a picnic. Let's look at Rivera, let's talk, listen to scientists, listen to people from the village who will present. Let us listen to the voices of those who have no voice, the elders, those abroad, the turtles, the fish that can't speak, the coral, the trees, the pond, the creative force of Mother Earth that is in Rivera, is the head of Grenada. Let us not destroy it. This is the plea, this is the cry, this is the emergency. I pause for any...
Amen. Yes, Brother Amen, question for you. What do you say to those persons who are of the opinion that we are bringing a very sick country that is going to create much needed jobs, much needed employment for of the surrounding communities? Hello?
Yeah. Invest in Grenada's green gold. The green gold economy of Grenada was the reason why the Kalinago were killed, the reason why African slaves were brought 400 years, 10,000 miles away from Africa to Grenada, was for the green gold, which is being ignored by the education, political, and economic leaders in Grenada because of the shame and the lack of recovery from slavery. We have industry in wood and textile, building wood. We have Campeche, we have mahogany, we have cedars, we have blue maho, we have teak. We have a whole wood industry, both for paper, softwood, and for construction, art, etc., and buildings and homes. We have a food and drink industry, second to almost none on the planet, clean, wholesome, organic foods, right? Our nutmegs, as you know, one of the best in the world, our cocoa, one of the best, our cane, our coffee. People may not know Grenada coffee, our soils are one of the fourth richest soils on the planet because of the volcanic activity around us. We have pharmaceuticals. Every second bush you step on is good for something for the human body. We have cosmetics and skin protection and lotion, shampoo, soaps, lotion, aloes. We have so much plants and herbs around us that we develop an industry that not only produce it for our market, but market it internationally. And rather than have Dubai concepts destroy our Rivera, the head of Grenada, we need to heal and give help and green assistance to those who have been so ego cultivated that they're about to destroy their home Grenada for a printed piece of paper, for a trap organized by a printed piece of paper. We have the alternative in eco or community tourism, where we take all the houses abandoned, Ivanized, great houses that people can't upkeep, family squabbles that people can agree on the properties rotten down, old mills, old centers in the past that were created. Why don't we pick these up and develop them and give employment in the communities around which they exist? Previously excavated sites. So our environmental impact is minimal, and have let people come and live in our communities, enjoy our Grenadian happy way of life that the bird has, the peace that the Grenada dove has given us. Let them share in our lifestyle and go back to the communities and perhaps heal their sick communities, rather than they destroy Livera, putting their own egocentric out of this irrelevant to Grenada and the planet concept of business and jobs. Let me tell you the kind of jobs our people will have. The managers and the executive and the supervisors will be imported as they are in the model right now. There'll be tax concession for 25 to 50 years. They're not paying tax. Our government will be earning nothing. The concessions on imports, they're going to be not paying any tax on importing all the things that they want to bring from the infinity pool handle to open to the towel that they're hanging up, right? We're going to have security jobs. A security job is 12 hours, 6 days a week. A man or a woman leave their home, their family at 6 or 5 in the morning to reach for 7 to work till 7 in the night, and have to go home, reach home 8, 9. Where is time for family? Where is time to read a book to your child? Where is time to cut your grass or to see to your animals, to see to your parents or your family or your neighbor? Where is time for yourself to live? And then maids have to wake up 3, 4 in the morning and go on shift pattern that affects the family, working all days of the week. That's the kind of jobs that's going to be pressured onto our people and drive up frustration, drive up ignorance, violence, pain, and people would not know why they are suffering, because what we are chosen right now is not only a Grenadian choice, it's an existential choice for the people on the planet at this critical time after the lockdown think tank went through. We have to choose. Are we going to hold back and temper the systems that we have created that is poisoning the planet and people and creatures and habitats and places? Or are we going to honor what made us? Can we temper what we made and look to the forces that made us, that have us on the planet, to understand the law that this body goes into the earth. The earth does not go into this body, whether it's Putin, whether it's Shang-Chi or whoever, or whether it's any leader or any person on this planet. All our bodies belong to the earth from where it comes. We must honor our Mother Earth. With places like Livera, is too high a price to pay. Our Prime Minister said that the sacrifice, we must pay a price for development. Okay, a small price, yes. The housing schemes in St. David's, in Boshejou, in Mongay, these housing schemes had minimal impact on the environment. They were built inland. They are away from waste waterways. The drainage systems will filter nicely in the land. It doesn't affect creative, forceful places of Grenada. Mount Hartman was declared a bird sanctuary and wildlife reserve. So was La Sagesse. And these places have been plundered. And right now, look online at La Sagesse, Grenada, and what has been done in development. Look at line at Mount Hartman and see, ask yourself, where would the turtle have a nest? Where would the bird, the guana have a nest? Where the ants? Who would speak for them? How would the turtles in Livera say, please leave my nest in sight alone? So right now we have to organize our people to wake up and see that this promise of jobs is a farce. They say they conform to the environmental standard, and the Prime Minister is assured that the damage will not be to the environment. Yeah, look at China's rivers. Look at the construction of one Grenada and what the consequence is. People do not care about the environment, and they would not build things to destroy it and say they will take care of it after destroying it. That is impossible. If you care about the environment and you want to keep it pristine, leave Livera alone. Leave Mount Hartman, leave La Sagesse alone. This is the home of a creative place that they don't know how this place created the dove, created Grenada, created their own heartbeat. And because this fundamental problem that people, leaders, do not know who they truly are and why we are here and what life is all about, they're about to destroy Grenada, the contribution of Grenada to the planet, ecologically, culturally, spiritually, socially. the contribution of Grenada, these creative places, to the beauty and love and joy what we experience without knowing why. This, my brother, is about to be destroyed, and we cannot. If you understand what life is all about in any little piece, we cannot allow Livera to be destroyed without destroying ourselves in all facets. We'll be destroying ourselves economically, socially, spiritually, environmentally, botanically, zoologically, geographically. And we know the connection between Kikemjini, Livera Pond, and the Boiling Springs in River Sally, for example. When Kikemjini getting on, the water changes color. There are underground caverns and tunnels that channel water systems, pure water from the northeast coming in to Grenada, that flavors the whole country, that powers the whole country. We don't know these things. They want us to prove these things before so they wouldn't mash it up. When water, the sewage and the gray water and the chemical matter goes down, and the disturbance of too much people and all this machinery goes down into the water system of Grenada, do we understand what we are doing to the planet? Do we understand Mother Earth, who has made this body and sustains this body? Do we understand that the printed piece of paper that we make, no matter how much billions they want to give us in reparations, cannot pay for the life of one slave, cannot pay for the life of one ant on the Welcome Stone? So we want to wake up our people, my brother. We plan media campaigns for this week. We plan to wake up Grenada people, the people on the planet who understand what this life is all about and why we are here for these few years and what infinity is all about. We are saying to our leaders, no, stop, sign the petition. We want at least 10,000 names, and we'll deliver this to our leaders and give them a chance, if they're trapped, to be able to escape the trap by saying our people say we cannot do this. Life, the laws of Grenada says we cannot do this. The creatures, the voiceless creatures, and the creative forces in Livera cannot speak. So that's why we're speaking. And there's no organization. I'm just begging and asking people to look and see what's been done. Look online, see what's been done. Let's go up there and see what we're losing. Let's tell our people we cannot cut off our head and continue to live in the same way. We can lose an arm, we can lose a foot, we can lose 2 arms and 2 foot. But when we lose our head, we're dead. Let's don't kill Grenada. Let's say no and save Livera.
I know that the Specto group used to be doing the turtle tours. They have been a major stakeholder in that area. What is their position on that issue?
Happy to say that accidental meeting with Specto, Specto's leaders. Specto is for saving Livera. Specto, as you know, conducts ecotourism with the turtles, and they appreciate. You should hear the students speak when they were able to experience touching a turtle in the night as it come up on the sand. How they speak with awe and reverence and respect. A turtle which lived for 200-300 years old, coming, an endangered species, coming to the Grenadian shores. I think Specto and some of the SGU people have a fund, like if a fisherman catch a turtle, they will pay the fisherman and release the turtle back into the wild just because they know the fisherman trying to make a bread for his family. And the turtle is so precious and endangered. This is being destroyed, my brother.
Speaking about fishing, speaking about fishing, would you say that the development of that project is likely to impact negatively on our fish stock?
Okay, fishing in the Livera era, as far as I know, is not commercial. Fishing in the Livera era is more family and community, and people going to catch a thing, whole a breadfruit, pull a yam, catch a crab, or raw for the family. That is a sustainable form of interaction that there was since slavery began. And in fact, there was the Kalinago people were interacting with that since then. It's our heritage. It's our cultural and natural heritage. One of the things of freedom is that you can go to the land, pick a breadfruit, dig a yam, and cook and eat and live for another day. Freedom. And we have this big freedom and democracy, right? Sorry.
So with all that you've said, is there any way that this project can be developed in harmony with best practices, best environmental sustainable practices?
Livera? Levera,
Is there any way that that project can go ahead in harmony with best practices as it relates to protecting the environment and
Yes.
not destroying our natural habitat?
Yes, that project can go ahead by leaving Levera alone. By don't touching Levera. Remove the damage that's being done now, repair it as far as you can, and just remove yourself and leave. Honor the local and international laws that protected Levera when the people who were living there were less blinded by money, and realize we have to protect this from the future for people who may be blinded by money for this piece of land. This land created us. This land created the people who are trying to develop, destroy it. They're not developing it. They use that as a word. If they want to develop it, use that same money and develop the abandoned, broken down buildings from York House in the middle of town, in the middle of St. George's Ford. There's so much abandoned buildings. Grenville, Guelph, Victoria, hotels full of abandoned buildings. Come on, let's invest in people and communities already developed, already paid the price for. The destruction of Levera has no defense. I'm going to cut off my head for development. I'm going to cut off my head
So
and live. Sorry?
Those people in the community, you mentioned about the fishing in the community. It is more to do with the livelihood of the of those people in the surrounding, their own welfare. How sensitized are they? How sensitized are these people towards the impact, the negative impact that it can have on that what they take for granted, really?
The people in the surrounding areas who know what's going on, who understand the power that's being destroyed, are relatively helpless for several reasons. One reason, they may be old and intelligent and can't fight no more. 4 times attempts were made in the past to destroy Levera in the name of hotels and resorts. This is the 5th time. And we know that technology is enhanced and they can come and conquer it with the current technology they have and apparently unlimited resources. The legal reasons and the financial reasons why due diligence is not done on the project, while there are contractors who have walked away from constructing in Levera and new contractors have to be brought in. Contractors with a conscience. People, anybody who understands what Levera is. When we were protesting there last Sunday, we had the police and some security men standing guard at the gates, at the entrance to the destruction ceremony. They understood our plight and they were concerned not to destroy Levera, but they were doing a job, helping. I spoke to students and young people who danced at the destruction ceremony, and they had to go because they're trying to be good and following orders. They did not want to go and dance and sing for the destruction of Levera, but they had to go because they figure they're hooked to a job. They're hooked to some loyalty to some party or some person or some group. They are loyal to everything what man has made. And what has made man? No loyalty, destruction. There are people who we have spoken to.
So,
one more set of people I want to mention.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, one more set of people we've spoken to who are living in the Levera area. Their parents live and grew up there and livelihood came from there, and they're opposed to the destruction, but they would not sign the petition at the time because their family themselves have certain position with government and employment that they cannot afford to jeopardize. And people who have businesses and who are relatively wealthy do not want to get involved in anything that could harm their business. Sorry, that's it.
Yeah. Well, so things being as they are, what is your agenda going forward? What is the agenda going forward? I know that you have to leave, you have another engagement this afternoon. So what is the agenda going forward?
The agenda is spontaneous and is being created as the heart is beating. We plan for the next week to sensitize and educate, because you rightfully asked. People's position is basically they don't know. The young people, some people don't know where Livera is. They can tell you every website on the planet, but they can't tell you where Livera is. So we want to bring families there, you know, and we'll sensitize for the rest of the week, be on all the media stations in Grenada, sharing the knowledge of Livera, asking for people to come out and show their support, sign the petition, learn about Livera, bring a family along, bring food and drink, organize transport. Let's have a family day between 10 a.m. and 5 p.m. the 11th of March, Saturday. And those who go to church and pray, please pray for Livera. We're asking all the Seventh-day Adventist churches in Grenada to please pray for Livera on that day, at that time, as we on the ground try to collect signatures and to show, to demonstrate physically by our bodies to our leaders that we are saying no to the destruction of Livera. We have alternative economic development plans. We can sit down and help them draw it up for free, voluntary. This is no organization. There is no money behind this. There is just people reacting from their heart to save their country, to save the head of their country. Please come out.
Thank you, Brother Amen. Well, thank you very much for sharing with us this afternoon.
I apologize for having to run.
Yeah, I know you have to leave. Yeah,
so we do community. We have storytelling where old people tell stories with the young. We beat drums. We share traditional foods for free. We let the kids come in the movement, and we'll be sharing about Livera. We'll be organizing a bus from our community to go to Livera Bathway on Saturday, 11th of March.
Okay. Well, I expect we will be hearing more about that, and with your agenda of meeting with different communities, and so I expect that within the various communities, people will have the opportunity to be sensitized about it and to get more information as to why we need to save Livera at this point in time.
Yes,
thank you. Any final words before you leave?
Yeah, one final thought. This had to be humorous, right? Because this is a heavy topic. I do apologize for those who maybe, but let's face it. You know, my brother Pablo, what's the worst thing about being in heaven?
Go ahead. What's the worst thing about?
The worst thing about being in heaven. The worst thing about being in heaven is not knowing you're in heaven.
I got you.
Worst thing about being in heaven is not knowing you're in heaven. Think about it, my brother. Think, oh, God bless.
Right.
It's not my thought.
Man. All the best. Okay. Yeah, man. Cheers.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Yes. Well, that was Brother Amen, and he is very concerned about protecting our environment, and according to him, as far as he's concerned, it goes beyond just a lake. It goes beyond just a bird. Our very spirituality, our existence is connected and related to the protection of our environment. There's a gentleman, he's originally from Grenada, based in Trinidad, Dr. Theodore Ferguson, and he is very much into the bird business and the bird therapy. And that's one of the things. I was supposed to have him on this program here some time ago. If you you're on Facebook, you put in Theodore Ferguson, he has a site, Yveti or Yereti or something like that, and he's always posting those photos of the different bird species and so in Trinidad and in Grenada and so. And he's of the opinion that our connectivity to nature helps us to address many of those psychological issues that we face. It will help our young people to have a greater appreciation of themselves, of their existence, given the fact that now in this dispensation, we see 12-year-olds and 14-year-olds being faced with some challenge in life, are taking the permanent way out, are taking a permanent solution to a temporary situation, that of committing suicides. When I was growing up, young people didn't commit suicide. When I was growing up, I'm bored. Boredom was not a word in our dictionary, in our vocabulary. Now I'm bored. It's so boring, has become very common in our in the vocabulary of our young people. And we see young people committing suicides and so on. So as a consequence of that, we need to help, we need to allow ourselves or to expose ourselves to those things that have given us essence over the years, to appreciate the significance of our connectivity as part of the creation to the rest of creation. We see that people live overseas and come here and they go by the rivers and they do recordings of the songs of the waves, the songs of the water trickling down in the streams, the wind. And we see these things are being sold online as therapy for people who have those kind of challenges. We have it naturally. And I guess that's one of the points that Brother Amen is making. So let's really take cognizance of this and see what can be done. Let's have a conversation about it. How can we have these kinds of development happening in harmony with the protection of our environment and the protection of our species, the protection of those natural habitats? Because once you speak about mangrove is usually an area for spawning of our fish stocks, certain fish stocks that our fishermen depend on for their livelihoods. So we have to take cognizance of all of these things. So these are conversations that we need to engage in, because I know that our NDC administration, under the leadership of then acting political leader Adrian Thomas, we did partake in demonstrations in La Sagesse in that regard, with to do with the destruction of the habitat down there. We participated in protests in Sates. We marched from Sates down to Mount Rodney, right? Based on the destruction and the degradation that has been taking place as a consequence of the Breakwater project. So we need to have these conversations and we need to understand how these things do impact on our environment. Brother John, at this point in time, we'll take a short break and we'll be right back with you to get into the real issue of our program this afternoon. And this was highlighted, this was promoted as we are going to be speaking about the propaganda machinery. And that's what we will be getting into when we return. Brother John?
Yes, sir. All right.
Yes.
The song?
Yep.
All right, there we go.
We tired, oh Lord, people tired. We want a change, we tired. Oh, I said we tired, and we tired, and we tired, and we tired, and we can't take it again. I'm on, we tired, and we tired, and we tired, and we tired, and we can't take it again. So we're moving forward, forward, forward. Move the country forward, forward, forward. With NDC forward, forward, forward. Oh, we go away forward, forward, forward. Too long. It's lies and mama guys. Too long. Empty promises in my eyes. Too long. You ignoring the people cries. Too long. All your days since 1995 and you don't do nothing. Only when election time coming, that's when poor people does get something. From all that bitch and passport you selling, them actions they telling. All you feel like grenade and begging. It's time to call off the wedding. We don't need that this time, it ain't working. Because we tired and we tired and we tired and we tired and we can't take it again. For people tired and they tired and they tired and they tired and they can't take it again. The youths them tired and they tired and they tired and they tired and they can't take it again. Canadians tired and they tired and they tired and they tired and they can't take it again. So we're moving forward, forward, forward. Move the country forward, forward, forward. With NDC forward, forward, forward. Oh, we going forward, forward, forward. Time for all you tourists. We want a team that is young and fresh. We want to bring out the best.
Yeah.
To press.
Yes, Brother John. Brother John, I see that some of our viewers in the comments section are saying that there are some audio issues. The audio is not clear.
Let's check it. I don't know why.
Yeah.
It's better now. Yeah, it's better now. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was Mandela Links there with one of our more popular campaign songs in the 2022 general elections, which NDC won. He was saying, we're tired and we can't take it again. And the people did demonstrate that they were tired of the NNP administration, and the NDC has been voted into office, led by Prime Minister, the political leader at the time, Deacon Mitchell. And now we have Deacon Mitchell as the Prime Minister of this country. And we are moving forward. Now, a number of things have happened from that time that many people have been complimenting. And let me start by saying, look, listen, those of you who are here, please share the live and let others join us. Let them know that right now we will be getting into some other matters. We had a very serious issue that we just finished addressing. Well, we have not finished because it's an ongoing something, but we've dealt with that, and we are going to be speaking right now about the propaganda machinery. And Brother John, do you have the number? You did say that we can facilitate calls, Brother John?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
We'll be able to hear. So if you can put the number out there so that people will be able to call. But let me just set the tone for this conversation, about the propaganda machinery. Now, here's what happened. What gave rise to this? What gave rise to this is the fact that many of you would have seen a video that I did that was headed, "I plead my own cause." Why did I do that video? Why did I find it necessary to do such a video? And why was it headlined the way that it was? Now, the fact of the matter is, it came against the background of a call that went to the Plead Your Cause program that takes place between 6:30 and 7 Monday to Friday on one of the main radio stations. A gentleman from my community, he called the radio station. Now, that's normal thing. People do that all the time. And let me start by, before I get into all of this, I want to state quite categorically, as I did in the short video promotion that I had shared earlier today. This presentation is not officially sanctioned by the National Democratic Congress. Just as the post that I did, which received 11,000 views and counting, was shared by over 145, there were over 145 shares, it was surprising to me that this video had such a reception. I am telling you, I've had more friend requests and more people following me in the last week, because it was last week, Saturday, I did this. I had more people following me in the last week and sending me friend requests than I have had for the past 6 months or 1 year. So there must be some reason for that. People saw some essence in the post that I did. And as I said, this is not officially sanctioned by the NDC, although I have been, and I still am, a member of the National Democratic Congress. In fact, I will be in the running tomorrow at convention for the position of Assistant General Secretary for the West Zone. We have 3 such Assistant General Secretaries, 1 for the West, 1 for the East, and 1 for the South. And I am up and running to become the Assistant General Secretary for the West Zone. But as I said before, this is not sanctioned by NDC, just like the post that I did was not sanctioned by NDC. When I did that post, I did not consult anybody. I did not seek any guidance from anybody. I did not seek any advice from anyone. But after the event had taken place, a video was produced by our political competition. And this is what led me to do this, because that video, the first thing that you would see, no, not one word from the caller was changed. It was as is. But when you saw the video, the first thing you would see was, 1, it says, NDC activist reveals party turmoil. Is the NDC falling apart in its first year? I want to read that for you again. On that video, the first thing that you see, the inscription that you would have seen once that video came to you was, NDC activist reveals party turmoil. Is the NDC falling apart in its first year? Now, once you read this, and then you went, now this has already programmed you. So once you start listening, you are listening in a particular frame of mind. That's how propaganda works. And I want to give you a working definition of propaganda. Propaganda in this context, propaganda generally is just information. But in the context of politics, it is information which is especially of a biased and misleading nature. It is used to promote, publicize a particular political cause or point of view. It will be mixed really with some truth, some facts, some twisted information, some half-truths, some insinuations, and so on. And then we had the insinuation right out front. NDC activist reveals party turmoil. Party turmoil, which means that there's turmoil within the party, within the NDC party. Is the NDC falling apart in its first year? Excuse me. Now, there are those who saw no harm at all. They felt it was just an innocent comment. Okay? And one of the telling things from the caller's comments was that he was complimenting me, or he complimented me. So people are saying, well, the man complimenting you. The man is saying, well, people fighting you down, and so on. But you have to understand and you have to appreciate the fact that This is not about me. As I said, I can plead my own cause if I feel there is a cause. And I do plead my cause when I do feel that there is a cause. Okay? Now, I'm getting fight down. Where is the fight coming from? Where is that fight taking place? Is it something that has to do with the national executive? Is it something that has to do with the constituency branch? That is not stated clearly in the caller's utterances. He didn't state, in fact, the manner in which the caller made the presentation. It left one to conclude. And this is what our political opponents concluded. NDC activists reveal party turmoil is the NDC falling apart in its first year. Because here are some of the things that the caller said. The caller said he's 30 years now. He's been part of the NDC and he's been calling on issues and so. Now, let me tell you, that caller, yes, he would have been associated with the NDC for many years. But I don't know if some of you recall that when Uncle Tilly was in office, there was a meeting at the Bonnet School, and that caller stood up there and castigated Uncle Tilly and co for not coming through for him in the manner that he had anticipated, and saying that the parliamentary representative, she's a woman of her word, and if she promises you something, you will get it, and so on. And you know what happened as a consequence of that? That caller, in the 2013 elections, that caller was on the platform of the NNP. That caller campaigned with the NNP. Now, I don't recall at what point in time the caller chose to be reinstated or to resume his connection with the National Democratic Congress, but he did return, and he has returned, and he has been part of it. And many of you would have been hearing the caller, as he rightly said, calling the radio and taking different government operatives and so on, authorities to task and so on. As he said, he called on the former Prime Minister to back down. In that vein, he also said that he's likely to call on the present political leader, the present Prime Minister, to back down. Now, and this is where the confusion comes, because while the compliment to me was to do with the operations within this particular constituency branch, the whole message was so mixed up like a big soup, where you just throw everything into the pot, that it left our political opponents to be able to use it. It became fuel for the fire. So they could say, NDC activists reveals party turmoil. Not a matter in a particular constituency branch, party turmoil. Is the NDC falling apart in its first year? Not there's discrepancies within a branch. Is the NDC falling apart in its first year? And that's one of the things that you have to understand about propaganda and how propaganda works. And as you know, Dr. Mitchell is a formidable political opponent. They say that lion has become a toothless lion. Don't count him out at all. You cannot count him out. Right now, he is making the rounds because evidently he is not going to be departing the political scene as was announced. And he is positioning himself to ensure that whenever their convention comes around, he will be retaining the position as the leader of that party. Recently, a couple of nights ago, he was in Loreto. So we cannot be dismissive of this individual. And we have to be cognizant of that. And we have to understand the extent of propaganda and how it works, the impact that it has. And we have seen how it has impacted and affected our political leadership before. And it's critical, it's important that we take steps, adequate steps to address such issues. And that's why, no, I had heard, I didn't hear the call directly, but the gentleman was the first one to alert me of him. He said, "Did you hear me on the radio this morning?" I said, "No, I typically don't listen to that program." He said, "Well, I call your name. I call your name in context." I said, "Well, I wonder what he's talking about." He left. But when I went to my phone, I saw that I had received the link from a friend of mine who lives in New York. I listened to the message and I started giving it some thought. But a couple hours afterwards, someone who lives in Canada then sent me the concoction from our political opponents. And when I saw it, the first thing that jumped at me was the inscription. Before I listened to what was there to realize, well, it was the very same thing that the gentleman had said. It was the inscription, "NDC activist reveals party turmoil. Is the NDC falling apart in its first year?" So this ceased to be about me. The people who have said to me, "Well, the man was complimenting you," they miss the picture. They miss this thing and they don't really appreciate the extent of propaganda and how it impacts. You know, one messaged me to say, "Oh, I heard Brother Fogo," they refer to him as Brother Fogo, "on radio saying good things about you. And from my understanding, people are trying to fight you." This is not what this is about. What was put out there was not about people are trying to fight me. That is not the conclusions that were drawn from our political opponents. You don't see anything in what they said. Their addition to it didn't have me in the picture at all. And that is what we have to understand. The propaganda machinery. We see that a publication had been done, a music publication had been done, one of the top producers in the country, and he did a song. Now he only sings, I've heard him do gospel, okay? But apart from his gospel, he only sings these kinds of songs whenever situation like these arise. One time before he had a sort of rap soul kind of stuff. This time around, he has a song, and it comes out and he speaks about all of those things relating to the NDC and, you know, more or less taking the NDC to task. This is how these people work. Every little discrepancies, they pounce upon it and they inflate it and they broadcast it. And in no time at all, it goes to thousands of people. By the time that message was sent to me, it could only be shared one person at a time. First, he had made wrong, then wrong, then wrong, then wrong. Do you know something? Just about 2 or 3 months ago, I had a conversation with some people in Guelph. And you know, one of them raised with me what he put forward as part of his argument, Nazim Bok and the Three Houses. Could you imagine that, Brother John? Up to this time, in spite of the fact that this has been debunked so long ago, there are still significant numbers of NNP supporters out there who are convinced that Nazim Bok was building 3 houses or built 3 houses. That is the strength of these people's propaganda. Now, there are those who say you don't have to answer to everything. And my question is, how do you determine what you answer to? What is the yardstick to measure what you respond to and what you don't? Yeah? How do you do that? What's the yardstick for measuring that? Brother John, are you there? Or am I just speaking to myself?
I'm listening. I'm listening to you. I'm listening.
Yeah. You know, did you, I would really like to get some perspectives from people out there. So if we can make the number available so that we can tell them, you know.
The number is up already. You know, people
the number is up already.
Out there, and they can.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the situation that we face, and we have to be cognizant. We have to be cognizant of the extent of propaganda, the significance of propaganda, the outcomes that it can have, how it can impact on situations. And we do not take these things for granted. I am not saying that everything the government do or every decision that is taken is sacrosanct. I will be the first to tell you that perfection doesn't exist in the human domain. That's a fact of life. Perfection does not exist in the human domain. And as a consequence, you know there are going to be discrepancies. And that's one of the reasons why we have institutions, and we have those institutions have particular guidelines and terms and conditions and so for engagement and how we treat with certain things. Okay? That's why we are a society of laws, of rules, of regulations. But we have seen over the years with the previous administration that they have been in breach of almost every regulation imaginable. We have seen with the previous administration where the Prime Minister has said, well, okay, well, there is a law, but if I was to follow the law, then it wouldn't meet my satisfaction, so I broke the law. No, he didn't say that in so many words, but ultimately that's what it amounted to. We have seen where the institutions of this country have not been respected. It's been derailed. Yeah? And as a consequence, when this administration came on the scene, what they met was total chaos in the different ministries. And they had to spend time piecing things and putting things together so that they can become operational. So it wasn't a case of where you come into office and you hit the ground running, because essentially government is a continuance and one administration is supposed to facilitate the other and to have a mechanism in place so that should the government change, there is continuation of whatever programs, projects, and so on, things can take place in an organized way. But this other side, they don't function so, they don't think so. And that's why over the years, they have created a situation whereby the vast majority, they have ensured, I should say, they have ensured that they have cultivated and nurtured people into a state of mind and a state of being that they have to depend on. The greatest be on a social service program. That's the greatest thing that you should aspire. You shouldn't aspire to nothing else. and you should be satisfied that you can get onto one of the social services program. So you just had a continued growing list of people being added to the social services program, whereby essentially the social services program is supposed to be something, especially for able-bodied people, that, okay, you give a hand up so that over a period of time, you can now be weaned away as you would wean a baby from the breast of its mother. You can now be weaned away from that dependency on that social service. But no, it has been branded as the highest thing that you should aspire to. And as a consequence of that, it puts a burden on the government. It puts a burden on the resources of the country. But this man didn't matter, because when you're in such a position, you can't call no shot. You can't put up any resistance. You have to accept and you have to be submissive to any situation that comes your way. You cannot challenge anything. Yes, you just have to be submissive all the time. And that is the kind of mechanism that he has put in place to ensure that he continues to win elections. He hasn't been winning elections based on a programmatic approach to say, we are going to put particular programs in place that's going to lift you up, that's going to make you independent in thought and in action and in sustainability. That is not what he is about. And we have to be careful in that, yes, perfection does not exist in the human domain. So there are going to be issues, there are going to be flaws. Yes? But the question you have to ask yourself, when faced with these situations, should you decide that you are going to replace that administration, the present administration, what would you be returning to? Are you saying that it is okay that if there are some discrepancies with this administration, certain things that you are dissatisfied with, that it is automatic now that, well, okay, we ain't satisfied with this, so we ain't satisfied with that. And you don't look to strike a balance. You don't weigh the pros and the cons, because there is a reason why. There is a reason why when you do a test, the passing grade is not 100%, you know. You can get 90 and pass. You can get 80 and pass, okay? Some tests, you get 75%, and, you know, there is a line, there is a base for your passing grade. So your passing grade may start at 70%. So are you telling me that because 10% has been missed and so you are going to not give this administration a passing grade, and as a consequence of that, you are going to return to what existed before, where the performance is under 50%? These are the things that we need to be able to be rational in our thinking as to how we treat with that decision that we make in terms of choosing an administration, in terms of electing people to manage the business of the state, to manage the affairs of the people, to manage the people's business. will return to Dr. Mitchell, Dr. Keith Claudius Mitchell. Would it be a better choice than to continue with the NDC, with the Deacon Mitchell-led NDC administration? You know, there are some people out there who are willing to accept anything that comes from the other side. I've had people say to me, boy, excuse me, I know the man is a bandit. I know the man is a bandit. But you see me, I like the bandit. People have said to us, oh, all you say the man does thief. No, we have never said the man does thief. We say that they mismanage the affairs of the country. But that is the way we speak. All you say the man does thief. But when he thief, we just get something. I've had people say these things to me because I have been on the ground going through the nooks and crannies and the highways and the byways in political campaigns from 2008. I was the chairman of the constituency branch, the St. John constituency branch, when we won that seat in 2008. So I've served as chairman in St. John and I've served as chairman in St. Mark. And when we won the seat in 2008, we just won that seat by 12 votes this time around, June 22, 2022. When we won that seat in 2008, I was the chairman. I was the operations manager, the campaign operations manager on a day-to-day basis. I was coordinating field and desk canvassing. So I was through the nooks and crannies of the constituency branch. Yes. I was speaking on the platform. I was chairing those pocket meetings and was one of the main speakers. Yeah. We had our own constituency manifesto, which I contributed significantly to in terms of content and edited it. So this is what I have brought to the table. I was producing content, script, and so putting out there, messaging and putting out there, excuse me, you know, doing newsletters and stuff like that. I have been doing that in St. Mark. I became the chairman of the St. Mark constituency branch in April of 2021. We had our general council in March of that year. And at the general council, the general secretary had reported that St. Mark was at the bottom of the table in everything relating to the party. The party had no presence. The party had no profile at that point in time. And yes, the caller that where we started, the caller was correct in saying that I took up the chairmanship when no one else wanted it. There was nobody else because the elections before had come through with an executive that didn't have a chairman. Yes, that had happened. And although a chairman had been inserted, they didn't last as long as Williamson fire, as the saying goes. They dissolved themselves. Now, the present caretaker senator, at the time, because of work commitments and so, he became the interim chairman, but he was not inclined to take on the chairmanship because of work commitments. So I offered myself to be the chairman of the constituency branch because I know that I knew what to do. First, to rebuild the presence of the party in the constituency and to lift its profile. And so from April, I became the chairman. May, June, July, August, September, October, we had convention. That's where political leader, now Prime Minister Mitchell was elected. And in that report from the same General Secretary St. Mark was now at the pinnacle in terms of operations and functions. So much so that when the political leader had made his rounds, he said he found St. Mark to be the best organized constituency of all. Now, I say this to say that I have the experience and I have the know-how how to make these things happen, how to work with people, because I couldn't have done it by myself. Yes, I conceive it and so on and so forth. The town hall meetings starting in St. Mark. We had the first one in 2021 before the coming of political leader in July. He became political leader in October. His first town hall invite speak on a partnership of the people and the politician. You can check those links, it's on my Facebook page. I did the orientation at those two events. Yeah. Prior to that, I had conceived an event that brought the West Zone together. And here I am, I am in the running to become the Assistant General Secretary for the West Zone. That was one of the first events that I did. I brought the West Zone together. And didn't just bring them together, was brought them together with the leadership of the party. Brother Adrian Thomas was acting political leader. Glenn Noel was General Secretary. Mr. Moore was chairman. You know, you had now Speaker of the House, Leo Keto came down with his entourage. You had Ray Roberts come up with a crew. You had now Member of Parliament, Honorable Philip Tellisford coming through, he and his wife. His wife won the cake, a beautiful cake that was prepared by one of our members, Miss Shirley Mitchell, you know, with all the party logo and all of that on it. And we had a wonderful event and it was hailed as a model. That's what I do, I create models. And that's why I know that I am suitable for the position of Assistant General Secretary. And we can build this constituency and this zone into what it ought to be. But I couldn't do it by myself. I had to be able to inspire and motivate the people who made up the executive to buy into it so that we can put the logistics and so in place to make it happen. Conceiving it is one thing, but you need the people to buy into it. And I was able to provide that kind of leadership. So we need that kind of leadership in order to address all of those propaganda issues and so. And our party really needs to have more than just the Heartbeat program in terms of its radio operations, in terms of its outreach, in terms of that kind of messaging. We cannot rely solely on the Heartbeat program to do all of that for us. It's not possible. So we need to have other such events, other such programs to sensitize people, to make people aware of what the situation is. And we need to come up to determine, we need to have a decision as to what do we answer to and what, what we don't. How do you determine that? How do you conclude which piece of propaganda is going to impact and which one would not? How do you, I don't know, I don't understand that. Yeah, I would like to be enlightened on that. But I can tell you, when I saw this one, and because my name was tied in to something that was providing fuel for the fire of my political opponent, because it said NDC activists reveal party turmoil is the NDC falling apart in its first year. It ceased to be about me. Right there with that comment, it ceased to be about Pablo. It was not about Pablo feeling good. That, oh, look at what I do, and look how they treat me. It's that is irrelevant. Because the big picture is not Pablo. The big picture is the National Democratic Congress. That is the big picture. And that is the message that people have to understand when it comes to these kinds of propaganda. So when I saw it, I dropped everything. I dropped everything. I was distracted a little bit. It was Saturday afternoon. I had visit from a couple of friends and so on and so forth. So, you know, that distraction came. But when that was over, it was nighttime, I took a bit of a nap and got up and put my script together. And by midnight, coming into Sunday morning, that post was out on social media and sent to hundreds of people in my WhatsApp contact list. And it resulted in views of, you can go on there, you'll see, it's reached 11,000 views. And there's been 140 something, 147 shares last time I checked. It has generated a whole lot of conversation. And this is what has led me to have this special focus session this afternoon. Because typically I am here on the MTTG show, having guests. A couple of weeks ago, I had Dr. Tessa Barry, the wife of our incumbent General Secretary, speaking about matters relating to, general matters relating to our development agenda and our development prospects. But she is, she has expertise in agriculture. So a lot of that was focused on our agricultural project prospects and you know, best practices and so on. You know, it's interesting that this morning somebody called me, and I believe we did mention that in passing, but we did not get into it in depth. Someone called me this morning to raise with me the whole issue of seeds. Because you know, most of the seeds that are planted right now are seeds that we buy by farm and gardens and whoever else. And our traditional seeds are being lost. We hear a lot of talk about us getting into the marijuana industry and so on and so forth. One of the things that we're finding is that the traditional marijuana plant is very scarce right now. You can hardly, most of what you're seeing right now is a different species, a different breed. Most of the corn that we have, most of the different crops that we have, the traditional crops, we are losing it. In some countries, they have seed banks to ensure that they protect the indigenous plants. We have seen stories about farmers in India who have had to always be repurchasing seeds because the seeds that you get when you plant it, it grows, it bears, but the seeds that come from them don't generate the kind of yield that you require. It may hardly bear anything for you. So you always have to be returning and repurchasing seeds. So you essentially at the mercy of these people out there. And if we're speaking about food sustainability, then we have to take these things into consideration. So typically my MTTG show would be speaking to these kinds of issues, but because it's not an NDC program. But I found it necessary because of what just transpired to use this afternoon's session to bring some sensitivity to that whole issue of the propaganda machinery. Because the propaganda machinery is critical to political outcomes. And this is what our political opponents have been using to full effect. This is what our political opponents have been using to full effect. And they have been very successful at it. Under normal circumstances, and given the kind of performance that we have had from that other side in terms of the governance, these people were not supposed to be winning absolute majority. 50-0, so much so that they feel, well, it is a given that once they run in election, it's 50-0. And remember, that was the mantra in the run-up to the 2022 election. 50-0 again in all your tail. Remember that? Another 50-0, all you're getting. And they were saying that to us, you know? It's another 50-0. Oh, this thing, what all you're talking, they go on with all the thing. It's another 15, all you go get again. And very soon you might find them saying that to us again. Because the man ain't giving up. The man is a formidable opponent. The man is a man. I know people say, yes, we spend too much time on the man, and we spend too much time on the man. But we see how this one supposedly innocent comment from this individual could be construed. And that's why I've said he has demonstrated a level of instability. And that was misconstrued by somebody I was having a conversation with. And I had to explain to them what I meant. Because while he did say he's been associated with NDC for 30 years, it was not consistent. There was a time when he did leave and crossed over to the other side. Are these comments coming from him now indicative of a move in that direction again? That's the question. That's a reasonable question to ask, because it was after he had decided that he was going to, not he had decided, it was after he had made those similar comments to Uncle Tilly and Queen Bonnet that he crossed over. So we cannot allow things like that to just go a-begging. We cannot be indifferent to these kinds of situations. So I've been at it for the past, how much now? You know, and if there's anybody wanting to call, anybody wanting to say anything, we'll take a short break right now with one of those, another of those campaign songs. Brother John, you may, Brother John, give us a little ice cream and cake, man. I believe you are ice cream and cake day. Give us a little ice cream and cake. We take a break there and we come back. If we have no calls, I'll round up for the evening, you know, and we'll be back with you.
I have two songs.
You have ice cream and cake?
Hotspot.
You have ice cream and cake?
Oh, I don't have ice cream and cake.
You have ice cream and cake? Which one you have? You have hotspot and what's the other one?
Spirit.
Yeah, play the other one.
I feel a spirit is moving to the spice.
Yes, spirit.
Feel a spirit is moving all around. I feel a spirit is moving to the spice island. I feel a spirit is shaking up the ground. The people can get at ease, only broken promises. The government have us on the knees. Whoa, where the island be just gone. With pension restoration, from them kind of life we want release. So they bring on the roti, that is the answer. The answer to we prayer, as poverty hit the sky, and justice will lead us die. Our farmers need a voice, unemployment must reduce. Citizens of this country, please listen to me. I feel a spirit is moving to the spice island. I feel a spirit is moving all around. I feel a spirit is moving to the spice island. I feel a spirit is shaking up the ground. All I hear is change, 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 change. That is what the spirit says. The future begins today. And new day surely dawning. Put your hand in the air and let me see something yellow, something yellow, something yellow, something yellow, something yellow, something yellow. If the spirit move you to something yellow, something yellow, something yellow, something yellow, something yellow, something yellow. NBC go see us too. The youths are feeling the squeeze. They label as humanis. Their future is under serious stress. Ooh, health providers under stress. The healthcare in a mess. Health insurance higher natural death.
Yeah, Brother John.
Since they step on the scene, we could feel a breeze blowing. Hope is coursing through the vein. All we need once again. Can you feel the ground shaking? Better days coming. I feel a spirit is moving to the spice island. I feel a spirit is moving all around.
Yes, the spirit is moving through the Spice Island. The spirit of the National Democratic Congress has taken over the scene in this country.
Yeah.
And the NDC has become the government of the day. We have seen NDC come on the scene, and we did see the unions were very pleased and very satisfied with certain developments. Workers, people who did not expect that they would ever see a pension in their lifetime.
Right.
They did receive their pension, and we have seen commitments that were given have been kept in terms of the Imanis who have a role to play, the Imanis who have some fixed position where the services are needed. They have been kept.
Right, right.
The vast majority of them are there. Those that I see, I know that pass here going to school. I used to be seen going to school on a day-to-day basis, who's assistant teachers and whatever else. I still see them going to school. I mean, there are those people who work with the faith ministry. These are the people that's not there anymore, because the faith ministry was a fake ministry.
Right.
The faith institution was a fake institution. And it's still uncertain. We still don't know whether there would be somewhere down the road, there would be cause for some kind of charges to be brought against these people, or what. Time alone will tell, but this situation has not really been handled well by the previous administration, and a lot of government resources were being expended on their people, and we were not getting value for money. But the people in the Imani program who have a service to provide, they are still there. Brother John, you've been wanting to say something.
I listened to you, and I've been reading your stuff over the past 2 weeks and what you have been producing and stuff. I think we have discussed that on the show last Saturday night, the Talking Point show with Delbert. We spoke last week with someone, I can't remember who was on the show with us last week. A lot of the noise that we hear in the marketplace is a lot of these are political grievances. Yes? Persons who may have been working alongside the NDC, trying to put things together, and for some reason, their cause or their wants have not been met yet. I say yet. And before they settle down and continue to work with the party and to make sure that other persons get served, they feel they have to be served because they have been working hard. You know, politics is a very funny thing. People who seem to have a sort of what I would say, a privileged mindset. Yes, they should be fed first because we know my party is important. I should be fed, and forgetting that they have to feed the people they have rounded up and mobilized to vote for the party. These people who are the grassroots people that have to be fed. So if you've been an operative and you've been working in the government, ensure that other people get fed first before you get fed. You see, you want to maintain the people that you brought in to keep them in. Those who voted for the NDC from the NMP camp, right? Those who came in and voted, who can trust the deacon to pay them the pension. Now the pension have been paid. You have to stay in the party to ensure that they stay in and vote the NDC in the next election by ensuring that they educate them on the process forward. You see, so when we become individualistic about our wants and our needs only, we defeat the purpose of party politics. We lose people and we lose ourselves in trying to satisfy us what we get, what is it for me now, kind of thing. First, what we could do for the entire nation. So unless you are one of those persons who are there just to get something out of it for you, you will be disappointed. You see? So party shouldn't just be what I want from it, but what can I do to ensure that the party stays in power? Because to say I'm not going to support NDC again because I didn't get a car, I didn't get that particular job, and then you want to say, okay, well, better come back in power. Well, what was your motive in the first place? You see? So one has to look at the bigger picture of what was and what is now. And ask yourself the question, has NDC failed the nation or they fail you as an individual because you wanted something personally for yourself? You see? So are you concerned about nation building? I'm talking about you building. You know what I'm saying? So those persons who have political grievances within the NDC, who felt that they have been marginalized now because of their personal agendas. I want to say to you, I'll ask you the question then, are you really an NDC? Or are you just a bandwagonist looking to get what you want from the party for yourself? And for the rest of the real agenda of the party to correct a wrong for 30-something years. Are you willing to go the long haul to ensure that the wrong is corrected, that system of governance before does not raise its head again to govern Grenada again for the next 40 years? So unless you want to continue what was heading for a failed state, to bring back, then I say to you, take a seat and reevaluate your position and see what you really want. And if what you really want is political chaos and mismanagement of your society, then go ahead. Because there are those who may have legitimate concerns, and I understand that people do have legitimate concerns when a government change. And I heard Mr. Baptiste make mention that 8 months is enough time to fix a lot of stuff. You have 8 months, you have a 5-year term, and 8 months is enough to do this and to do this and to do that. Well, all depends on how bad the road is, and how bad the house was neglected. You take a lot more repairs to fix probably one thing. You know, but I'm saying to NDC, do something major, do something big, do something that could be seen. But to say, I didn't get that job, I didn't do this, I cannot support NDC anymore. I think this is so self-serving than nation building. You know, back to you, Pablo.
Yeah, well, actually, while you're speaking here, a thought came to me about a book that I had come across some time ago. And I believe it would have been a former political leader, Franca Bonadine, who would have mentioned about that book. And I did find a copy of it online. I found a PDF copy of it online. And the title of the book is Leaders Eat Last. And the book is written by one called Simon Sinek. I believe, I hope I'm getting
I know him very well. I listen to him.
Okay. And in the prologue to the book, he says, leaders are the ones who run headfirst into the unknown. They rush towards the danger. They put their own interests aside to protect us or to pull us into the future. Leaders will sooner sacrifice what is theirs to save what is ours. And they would never sacrifice what is ours to save what is theirs. This is what it means to be a leader. It means you choose to go first into danger, head first towards the unknown. And when we feel sure, they will keep us safe. We will march behind them and work tirelessly to see their vision come to life and proudly call ourselves their followers. Unfortunately, in this dispensation, what we've been having managers instead of leaders. And we need to be building leaders. We had some glimmers of leaders during what was called the era of the progressives. And since after the fall of the revolution, that seemed to have become a thing of the past. And what we are left with now have been managers. And some of the managers have not been doing a good job at all. So we need to get back to that, where we build leaders. And we hear about leaders of the past. We hear about the Martin Luther King. We hear about the Malcolm X. We hear about the Kwame Nkrumah and people like that. These people were seen as leaders, and there were people willing to follow them because they put themselves out there. And they were willing to give their lives. And they did give their lives.
Yes.
Presently, no one is willing to go that, well, not no one, but the people that we have had offering themselves, they're not of that ilk. And this is what we need going forward based on where we act. Mm-hmm. That's the leaders that we need in order to be transformational.
Yeah, I think someone said somewhere along that true leaders, they don't maintain followers, they create leaders out of followers.
Absolutely.
You know? And when one ceases to become a leader, the organization falls apart because you're not maintaining later. You try to maintain followers to remain in power. But when you create leaders out of followers, the organization grows. Right?
Well, that's why the gentleman had to say he can't find nobody, he can't see nobody to replace him.
Exactly.
Because all he's been creating was followers and not leaders.
Exactly. And I want, as I said, I want to drop a point here because a lot of people accuse NDC and saying they're always changing leaders. That means they have a depth. They have if one go off today, they have another one.
Absolutely. And in addition to that, let me piggyback on that as the saying goes, Brother John.
Yeah.
We have seen that in spite of the change of leaders, the political philosophy has remained constant.
Exactly.
And we have seen under different leadership, the approach to governance has been consistent. in that they always take a programmatic approach to development, unlike the other side, under different leadership. And it's for this reason and against that background that I usually say that NDC is not just a political party. NDC is a political philosophy.
Yes, yes. And I think what happens, people, okay, they are Tillman, they bring Nas, they bring this person, but it only shows how deep the pool goes. You could pull up from anywhere and pull a leader to run, to operate, you know, the government. When we're in the NDC, in NMP, and we have been saying that for years, NMP has a problem with leadership, okay? They have always had that. There's a one-manism kind of thing within the structure. And that has not really been the case with NDC. NDC, whenever a leader move on, they always could just move in and put another leader in place like tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? Because they have that there. They have that kind of thing. And Dr. Justin Pierre survey, data collection has proven how deep that is running within the NDC structure. You can't say the same thing as NMP. Now, NMP will suffer from lack of leadership if, for a better word, growth. Right? The growth could be stunned right now because of the leadership, but must be very aware that they also have command of a large following that need NDC to grab 10% of that following to come into the NDC camp to win the next election. Also, you cannot just assume that because they doesn't have a leader, they have their own turmoil going on, that they will fall apart, which will take a long enough time. But it's also imperative that the NDC continue to do the work on the ground to maintain and to recruit new people 18-year-old into the party, and they must put structure in place to ensure that happen. And that is coming in the backdrop. I'm saying this too, that if you got to build the party, you got to have a strong central organization that understands the significance of party building. And that's where your general secretary comes in, that should know and organize and to run the mechanics of the party. The engine room have to be taken care of. The party dynamics have to be taken care of. And I think that is where you need strong-headed persons to run the organization. The parties of government is one thing, but the party base have to be solid. And that takes a lot of effort, a lot of planning, a lot of work when party work is concerned to maintain the image and the strength of the party. So leadership requires leaders to not to maintain followers, but to create leaders within the structure. And NMP doesn't have that. So right now you have an NMP that is not only just cracked, but is broken and it's a life support more or less. So NDC must not really focus on them too much as the leadership, but focus on recruiting and putting things in place where they could bring in the younger people into the fold by creating jobs and other little program that will get them to be part and parcel of the organization in their communities.
Brother John, as you know, it's against that background that I had initially offered myself to become the general secretary of the party.
Yes.
Because I know I have that kind of depth and I know I have that kind of capacity. Unfortunately, within the realm of politics, you know, such outcomes are not determined strictly upon merit, you know, and popularity and high profile and status and so on play a significant role in influencing would-be voters out there, you know. And I had to face the fact. I had to come to the conclusion that we have not arrived at that place yet where merit is the sole determinant in making such decisions. Okay, so I had to settle for the Assistant General Secretary position for the West Zone rather than go ahead with my bid for the General Secretary position.
Right.
But in line with what you have just been saying, there is another excerpt from that book that I want to share. And it says, and it's in keeping with what you've been speaking about, with regards the sustainability of the party and the challenges that's being faced by our political opponents right now. It says good management is clearly not enough to sustain any organization over the long term. Okay? The leadership, they would fail to create an environment where people really do matter, because organizations, people need to share values and are valued in order to succeed over the long term in both good and bad times. So if these values are not the driving force of what makes your organization what it is, if the people who are running the show are simply managers and not leaders, and do not have that element of human behavior that clearly demonstrate that there are real reasons, why they should be followed, or why the policies and the principles that they bring to the fore is worthwhile for people to buy into, then the organization will fail eventually. They would be successful for a short period of time, as we have seen with this other side. They have been successful, but because the pillars upon which they stand have not been solid, they have not had a solid foundation. That's why now you can see that they are struggling to find a leader from among them. And that's one of the things that our political leader, Dickon Mitchell, has spoken about from the time he came on the scene. He said that he had an experience in Barbados, right? In Barbados, he says, coming through because you have two Labour parties there, the Barbados Labour Party and the Democratic Labour Party. And he says in both institutions, there is a merit-based system wherein you become a member as a young person growing up. And you know that once you work your way well, you can become, through that system, you can become a parliamentary representative, you can become a candidate, you can become a parliamentary representative, you can become a cabinet member, and so on and so forth. And he says that this is the kind of institutional framework that he wants to see the NDC be developed into, so that young people can know that they have a serious career in politics. And we stop seeing politics as this thing where people are just thief. So that is the kind of vision that our present political leader has for the building of that institution, the building of our party into what he calls a sustainable political entity that can stand the test of time. For his words.
I agree. I totally agree that. I think what people, and I'm reading a comment in the chat here, and sometimes when okay, let me read what the person says, right? A person who stood by the party when it was not fashionable or popular to do so. They work hard from then to now to see the party attain victory, and now they feel as being used, abused, and replaced. This is a real concern that the leadership must look into, because it's one of the major errors that were made in the past. This led to the demise of the party. Now, I don't know which party, there's parties that happened, like the PRG, the NGM, and whatever that happened to a lot of people in that era, right?
I think the person really wanted to write those who forget, I think that is what the person means to say there. Those who forget their past are sure to repeat it. I think essentially that's what the person wants to write.
I'm not going to beat him for that. I mean, all of us make errors in our.
I think so. And when we using this thing to type, some of the it gives the correction, the whatever, and you press and that word comes up, not the word that you really want. Because it happens to me, I would put certain thing in there, and it's after when I read back, I realize, oh, that's what I put there. That's not what I meant to say. Anyway.
I don't get.
But I think that is about getting the essence of the point that the person is making, and the person is saying that those who forget the past are sure to repeat it. And the person is correct. You have situations like that, and as leaders, we really do have to take cognizance of things like these in terms of making certain decisions and keeping the base, keeping our grassroots support, right, comfortable, making them, indicating to them that they are appreciated.
Yes.
And these things have to be significant consideration going forward.
I think that party have to do, all right, and party have to do what I call self-evaluation. So you look at your party, look at the workings of your party, the different organizations within your party structure, and those players that was significantly impacting the growth of the organization. Where do they, how can we use them or have them, not use them, but place them in the right part of the field to play effectively so the team could win? Yeah. It may not be an outright government job, it may be a party job, right? Where you could put them there and pay them to work now within the party structure. So I say this to say, evaluate where you are now as a party, because now this is 8 months, right? So by year one, you should have a proper view, right, of your organization, where it's at politically, where it's at from a membership point of view, where it's at a social point of view, and a community level. Where is the party at? And who are the person that was significantly working to make our victory, attain our victory in the last election? So where are those people? Where are those people now? How can we evaluate their work and how to place them in the right place? Not just a government job, but there's other things that could be done within the party to maintain the party going forward. Because government and party is two different entities altogether, right? And sometimes we think, well, we could just run government, we come in power and forget the party. You cannot do that. You need the party work done to stay in power. Yes, because if the party fails to maintain to keep the structure together, you don't have you can't work in election and win an election easy like that. So you have to have that party mechanism working, and that's why I'm coming back again to the leadership, and that leadership comes to the general secretary and the assistant secretary, the PRO, the mouthpiece of the organization must be intact. That two part, the chairman, the general secretary, and the PRO, these three pieces must be very cognizant of the development and growth of the organization, and how would that affect the functioning of the government that comes out of the party. Because if there is
the good thing, Brother John, is I am so well-rounded in that regard that I can play the role of, I can do the secretarial duties, right? And I can still do significant public relations operations.
Right.
I produce very good content, as was evident by that piece that I put out there that drew 11,000 views. Right. I can produce very good content, both in text, in audio, and so on. My communication capabilities is a bit in my chest right now with par excellence. I mean, it is above average, definitely so. And the messaging, my messaging do not leave. I don't is not ambiguous. It is very clear. It is very precise, you know, and I know that I can and will play a significant role in that regard. Speaking in relation to what you've been saying about those responsibilities, whether it's government or party, that's one of the things our party will have to do. And there's conversations taking place about that as we speak. The fact that these works, these party works, are strictly voluntarily, okay? But we have to, apart from, well, okay, you'll have an office, so the office operative will be paid. But apart from that, the assistant general secretary, the general secretary of the party, the public relations officer of the party, and so the people who have to be doing the nitty-gritty and ensuring that the wheels of the party is functioning in the way that it ought to. These people are strictly voluntary. And the conversation now is that given the responsibilities and the tasks, the undertakings that such individuals have to be involved with, that we need to cater for these people differently, and in order to provide them with the appropriate resources to get the job done. And there should be some kind of remuneration or whatever for these people and stuff like that. So that's a conversation that's taking place right now. And I think it's imperative for the party to sit down and look at, okay, you have a general secretary, this is what the responsibilities are, this is what the requirements is going to be, you know, in terms of material, in terms of finances and so on, and then really find sources, come up with different strategies and mechanisms as to how you are going to raise the resources, the required resources to ensure that the party work is done. Because as you rightly said, it is the election machinery into place, it's not the government, you know, and that is critical, because if you do not have that in place, you could find that election can come upon you, and then you do not have the machinery in place to bring out the votes and stuff like that. And that is one of the things that the other side have been good at, because they have deep pockets and they are able to pay the operatives, you know, so, yeah.
I am of the opinion still that despite what is happening, I think NDC is in a very good place. And I think
definitely so.
I think the voters, all those who voted for NDC, must look what they said they would have done, and it is being done. There's a lot of political hiccups, and that mostly, you know, what I say to people all the time is this, right? I think any of you have had this conversation before. Okay.
There's many conversations we had.
Like all what the NDC is doing, because probably I might have seen the vision of a particular thing that they're doing. But does that mean I have to say go on and bad talk the NDC and say that I'm voting them next election? No. What I have to do is to try to get to understand why they go in that direction, and how I can get involved to make sure that it comes up. Because probably, you know, you don't see the vision, but you have to trust your leader. He's going somewhere. Yes, you're not following blindly. But my point here is, in politics, you may not see everything the same way. Yes, that does not mean that you have to leave the party because you don't see everything the same way. You see. I have learned many years ago, growing up in Grenville, Paradise, Grenville area. I visited a tailor shop one rainy afternoon after school, and there was a picture in that tailor shop, and there was a big cat on the poster with two different color eyes. I never forget this. It reads, although we see things differently, we are living in the same head. Therefore, we must work together for the body.
Okay.
To that effect.
Mm-hmm.
After reading that, I recognize in life that you and I may be on the same bus and see two different things heading in the same direction. Yes?
Mm-hmm.
We must stay on the bus to get to the destination.
Mm-hmm. I got you.
You know, NDC have done a much better job in governing Grenada than NNP have ever done.
Well, all the time, NDC always do that. It's just that NDC has not been very good at really selling itself, you know? And I think that is changing. We are in a different dispensation right now. When it comes to selling itself, you are going to find much more work. It is going to be a more constructive and coordinated approach is going to be taken towards addressing that issue now than has been done before. Yeah.
And one of the things that often happens in politics is people level of intolerance for government not recognizing the persons who have been on the ground with them, right? And they become very, 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 very impatient. And I think I heard Ms. Charles say that NNP focuses on NDP people too much. And then people still complain they still have their job, they still have their this and they have that. Well, while that is true, we can just up and put away a permanent secretary in the morning. You can just, as the Public Service Commission, have those persons covered. Yes? However, if this violates any act of the government, then they could replace them or fire them, right? We go to due process. When it comes to NNP bodying up NNP people, you no longer just a party in power, you're a government in power that serve Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique, NDC only. I think that when the parties and politics get too deep and too entrenched in us, we tend to see it from our own vantage point. We have to get work now with our time. But what about Grenada time? What are the best persons for the job? If they're NNP and the best persons for the job, they're working diligently to make sure the country's benefit. Should we just replace them because they're not NDC, because they're not NDC supporters? I don't think we should do that. You see, if they're not working the interest of the people and they're sabotaging the movement going forward, then yes, get rid of them. I have no problem with that. But if the persons are there and they're working effectively, why you replace them because you're an NDC person and you need a job too? You know, we cannot do that. That's political victimization. So let's not be found guilty of political victimization because it doesn't suit us. We should get rid of all of them because they didn't vote for the party. How you know that? There's some people in NNP, they love anybody vote NDC this year. Because it's proven. After NDC people vote, NNP people vote NDC this year. NDC people did not vote in this election. And, should we reprimand them for that? Probably yes, probably no. But at the same time, we need to maintain the office. The government in office. We need to do what we need to do as a party. And I say we, but I'm not a party member anyways, but I'm not speaking that in those terms. But we need to have significant boots on the ground, and every aspect of government must be told to the people where we're going, what you're doing. That's why it's important to put up the banners, put up the posters in the community, what you're doing, your next move, and get people involved. Everybody, not just NDC people, and just NDC people alone going to the town hall. Everybody should go to the town hall and voice their concern.
Right.
Do that. So you will hear what people really want. A government could be very remote if given a chance, and just do things without consultation. So we need the NDC, the NDC, the government of Deacon Mitchell need to have continue a lot of those town hall meetings and hear from the people. Ask everyone, the NDC people should still go out in the field and encourage people to come out and do a census, find out what they want to see happen in the community. Ask them, sit with them. We cannot divide our own party lines now. We need, it might be strange, but it's true. We have to work with everybody, NNP and NDC. we have to get rid of this kind of divisive politics. Yes? Prove that we're different than the others, that we're willing to work with everybody. So we can be strengthened and be better.
Well, Brother John, I agree with you, but that is going to take some doing, and it's going to take some time. Things like that, mindsets that have been established, cultivated, and nurtured over decades are not going to be transformed overnight. So we have to be able to work, right, to develop strategies, and we have to be consistent, and it has to be continuous. Because if you remember when we were learning our tables and our 1, 2, 3 and our and such like and our ABCs, there's a reason why we had to repeat it and repeat it and repeat it over and over again. And we put it in songs and stuff like that. So eventually it stuck into you and it becomes second nature.
Right.
You know, and that's one of the things that we have not been in terms of addressing issues. We have not been as consistent as we ought to be.
Right.
And we may try one strategy and it didn't work in the way that we had anticipated. And as a consequence, we just put everything down and then we don't come up with another approach and so on. And then the thing lags for another 10, 15 years, 20 years, and then we start all over again. Whereby if we had continued for the 15 or the 20 years, by that time we could have had the kind of adjustment and the kind of change in mindset that is really required. So, you know.
Somebody have another comment. I want to read it because I don't know what time you have, but I will look at that time. Because I know you have to get ready for tomorrow and everything like that. This is your show. I don't
No, yeah. Take this one, and we'll close it on after that.
Craig Joseph says every time NDC gets in office is the same.
Yeah, I was looking at this one too.
Always leaving out their foot soldiers. Take a page from that corner in Trinidad. Your foot soldiers should be first, second, and third. All others come afterwards. Because they are ones who put you there. Everybody cannot be in the office. We have become invincible on the ground, even on GIS. That could have never happened under Kit. If Kit went in his toilet, you could find
GIS. And they will bring it live for weeks.
Yes. So where is the GIS today?
I know.
So bringing so old back, something back, and
some old black and white back. Yeah.
White movies. Since in the days of Columbus, news all the time are fed up with GIS. Drain the swamp now, and I could understand the brother concern. And GIS is Government Information Service, guys, and you need persons that is really know what they're doing, creating content and bringing news and stuff like that, highlighting government programs and stuff like that. It's important to have that happening. Yes, use it as a propaganda tool for the party and government, and not only party but government itself. Right? What the government, the budget, what they're doing. Have serious conversation with constituent people. Go out there and have this conversation and go on the ground, talk to people, and the Government Information Service should be used for government activities, show and tell people what you're doing, right? And not just let them be their own thing. You have to have that agency to produce and promote government activities. Not a party thing, but government, what the government is doing. And use it just as much as you can. Don't just sit down and say, well, is the independent body. It's the government.
Brother John, if I may say something on that, I think to get some effect, right, or to have the kind of effective messaging that you need as an administration, because the administration is born out of the political entity. The policies that drive the government is born out of policies that's constructed and put together by the political party, okay? And then you get into government. So essentially, you are there endeavoring to implement those policies that you put together when you were within your political structure.
Yeah, you know, I'm glad you made that point, but I want to read something Hugh Lawrence said, and something I've been saying. I said before, and I want to.
Let me finish that. Let me finish that point. Let me finish that point. So when you get into government, you want to ensure that the people within the ministries have an appreciation of what your policies are, okay, and able to walk along these lines. Now, unfortunately, based on the way how the system has been made to toe the line of one particular political institution, right? And they have had that kind of control. You find that you end up with people who are in these positions, but their loyalties, right? They are not working as professionals now to say, well, this is the policy of this administration, and it is my professional responsibility to work to make it happen, okay? Essentially, they have the political allegiance, they own partisan political allegiance. And because the allegiance is to the party that is now out of office, they would either not do things, right, that pushes the policy, they would put stumbling blocks in the way of the administration of the day. And so rather than be professional, say, well, this is my responsibility, this is the government that's there, and whatever they're doing is within the framework, okay, of what is legitimate. So then they do the work as professionals. But you do not have that kind of situation, you know. So I think it is critical that whenever, like you're in office, and like with the GIS, that there is someone who can guide the kind of content that pushes that kind of narrative, that ensures that whatever narrative that goes out there is reflective of the policies and what they're trying to accomplish, and the messaging is appropriate, okay? That the messaging is appropriate, so that people can understand and people can get a sense of this is the delivery of the policies that the party ran on, you know, rather than it is just left up to the same people who are there. You cannot move them for whatever reasons, and so they just going ahead, you know, in the same way, because the political allegiance is not to you. They or let me put it differently, because they have a partisan political allegiance to the people who are not in power.
All right, I want to go to another thing I saw here. There's two things I see here, Pablo, if you permit me. Hugh Lawrence says, the party meets with its supporters tomorrow, and the executive positions are open for election. I strongly believe the party and government affairs need to be separated. I agree. Ministers should not be trying to run for internal party posts when they have the responsibility of running the ministry.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that too, and that is a discussion that is going on right now. And I guess that is a discussion that will continue, but there isn't anything that stops. That stops a minister from offering themselves, you know. And go ahead.
I understand that, but I hold that same view as you, right? I do not believe
Mhm.
A minister given Andy's, I'm call Andy here and that,
Mhm.
his portfolio as government minister right now.
Mhm.
Party work needs someone who is focused on building party. Andy Hand is this implementation, mobilization, because that's a lot of work. I don't think he should be involved in that, excepting that race is a decoy to maintain the current, and that's my personal opinion, the current general secretary remain in power in the office, right? That's my only reason I think they had put him up to set him up to run for that thing as a decoy, right? But I don't see him becoming, or should be running for that position within the party. Yes, you're popular. Yes, people like you. That's not a place where you want to be doing two of these major jobs at the same time. Let me tell you.
Essentially, it is expected that tomorrow at convention, these are the two people that will be contesting for the general secretary position.
And I guarantee you that Mr. Barrigo
right?
that Mr. Barrigo
will maintain the position. Well, we'll have to wait and see. There is an interesting comment here from Sister Cassandra Mitchell. Good afternoon, Sister Cassandra. It's a while our paths haven't crossed. The Constitution does not recognize political parties. What strategy are you suggesting that they use to decide who is NNP, NDC, GULP, etc.? Noting too that the Constitution protects a citizen's right to a political ideology. Yes, the Constitution does not recognize political parties, and that is part of our reality. With that being said, Brother John, just a minute. With that being said, it does not remove from the fact that when we go into elections, apart from, yes, you have one or two quote unquote stragglers who run as independents. We know that so far, we haven't seen independence in this dispensation having any significant impact. So essentially, it's a contest among political parties, and there are two political parties of note. The people who become parliamentarians are politicians. The people who become cabinet ministers are politicians. So in spite of the fact that the Constitution does not, quote unquote, recognize political parties, the people who become government are politicians. So the political philosophy, the political ideology, and so on is what drives the governance of the country. And it is up to them to be able to develop strategies to ensure that these philosophies and these policies really become evident in the delivery. Okay? The question that is being asked, what strategy are you suggesting that they use to decide who is NNP and who is NDC and who is GLP, etc.? There's no strategy that has to be determined on that. These things are established. We live, I mean, Grenada, as my brethren usually say, Grenada is a little 2x4 country where everybody know everybody. Yes, Grenada is a little 2x4 country where everybody know everybody. And this is why we have seen when Dr. Mitchell gets into office, he will move expeditiously to move people out of his way who he knows are not loyal to him. Even if these people, they may not necessarily be inclined to push a partisan position, but he doesn't want people who function as professionals. That's the point I'm making. If you function as a professional, whoever is in office wouldn't matter, because you functioning as a professional and you understand that this is the policies of this administration in the delivery of whatever government's agenda is. in the delivery, in the continuum that government is. Okay? That is the policy of this administration. And the policies, as we said, are driven by what comes out of the bowels of the political party. That is our political reality, irrespective of the Constitution does not quote unquote recognize political parties. But the people who become government, the people who become parliamentarians were first politicians. And so it is understood that what they bring to the table are always driven by political considerations. That is an indisputable fact. That's an indisputable fact that cannot be changed. Even if the Constitution does not quote unquote represent, does not quote unquote recognize. Does not quote unquote recognize political parties. Right?
I think, Cassandra, pardon me here. Cassandra is saying, no, we don't elect politicians. We elect representatives. Representatives are politicians.
The representatives are politicians. The representatives, yeah, you elect people as they become representatives. Yes. But the people who become representatives are politicians first.
Yes, and
that is the reality.
I think when you say, okay, a politician, who is a politician? The politician wants to represent the constituency, not so? When you become a representative for a party, you represent this party, right? Also become that person going to politics in the political arena. The whole thing, politics, in my view, whatever the constitution is, and they try to deflect the language used here, it is what it is. A politician is represents the constituency. So I'm a politician. I run in for representing St. Andrews Northeast as the representative for that area, but I'm a politician running for that office to go into government. So yeah. I think the Constitution in some place could be misunderstood, and in terms of language used to representative versus a politician. What is the difference between a representative and a politician? It could be elected representative to govern, right? Because you could be a representative, but you're not elected in the party, but you're still a politician. But you're an elected politician representative for the office, right? Yeah. For example, the MP Gloria is a politician, but she represented this Northwest. But she's not. But she's still a politician representing her constituency. So we could play the words over and over, but I think in essence, and as much as Cassandra is saying at the same time.
Yeah, I understand what she's saying, and one cannot, I'm not disputing what she says, but the thing about it is, the thing about it is, it does not remove from the fact that the people who are elected as representatives are first politicians. It is politicians that are elected to become representatives. So political considerations inevitably will be driving and guiding the decisions that they make. That is a fact of life. We are human beings, and the whole issue of using Dr. Mitchell as representative of good governance. That was not the intent. It was really to make the point as to he has his strategy as to how he gets his things to be implemented, his policies or his position to take precedence. The other party would have to come up with its own strategy as to how you don't go against the Constitution, you don't go against the law, but you have your own strategy to ensure that your policies are really put out there and really be advocated and really get the visibility and so that you wanted to, in order to get people to understand what it is that you're doing. Because we have a situation whereby NDC has been in office. NDC has been in office on 2 occasions previously, and there is a narrative based on where we started, the whole issue of propaganda and its impact. Right? The propaganda that has been put out there, people have confronted me with that. oh, you all got a chance and you all didn't do anything. And when I outlined things that would have happened, in particular during the 2008 to 2013 elections and so, and they would say, but Pablo, we never know that. This thing was never been out there in the public domain and whatever. We never knew of these things.
I think,
and that's one of the things that has to happen, you know. Mm.
What part of our conversation during the week, and I think I want to, want to have people like Cassandra. We have to educate our people on the Constitution, because if you alone know it and you're just talking about, people wouldn't understand, because you wouldn't understand where you're coming from. So we want to have that open discussion where people could come and learn and understand what is in the Constitution, how they could participate from the party level to political level and so on. So the Constitution still seems to be a dark document to a lot of people, right? They don't understand it. They don't understand the mechanics of it. They don't understand the working of it. And when persons like Cassandra come out and talk about people, because of lack of ignorance and not knowing what is in it, what is about, they tend to demonize what she's saying because they don't understand. So we need to have, I think it's Claudette Thomas saying here, we have to keep the conversation
going and keep educating our people. Yeah, that is critical. We need to have, that's the thing. Our media is not infested enough with such conversations. Our media need to be more infested. Our radio programs and so need to be more infested with these kind of exchange, these kind of conversations and so.
In our radio stations,
other than some of the emptiness that fills it of the time.
Fills the air. Derogatory music and shows that from North America infiltrating the minds of young people with garbage and pure nonsense. We're not educating people. We have to, if you want to live here, people die from old age, really. People die from diseases. Yes? People die from diseases, not from old age. So if we want people to live healthy political life, we have to feed them good political food. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Because bit size, small portion. Time. Thank you very much, Tessa.
Yeah, Dr. Tessa Barry is in the building. This is all good. I mean that we can have people who are of a certain level, who can make these kinds
Pablo, and I want
sensible contributions.
An open invitation to Cassandra again here, that with she and Bernard to come on here. And I know the chairman of the Constitution Caucus is an Adventist, and Friday night is a good friend. So we could have a Saturday evening 1 hour, 6 o'clock, 6 to 7 to 8, and Saturday evening from 7 to 8, 8:30 and 7 to 8, yeah, or 6:30 to 8 o'clock, and or Thursday night 8 o'clock, 8 to 9 or 8 to 9:30. We could have this kind of conversation. Because we need this conversation about Constitution need to be had. Okay, we have to have it in the school level, but even in the media level, where people listen and learn from it. Take notes, walk your notebook, and persons like Cassandra, Mr. Ned, and others, and other lawyers who understand certain aspects of the Constitution. Because lawyers don't understand the Constitution to the level of making a good statement about it, right? So we can't say that we don't know when we want to do it, then it's there. So now we have the platform, we open up the platform, and we have people asking questions about certain things. And I think every Grenadian should have a copy of the Constitution in the house. Yes? And it should be made available to them to read it, right? So they will know and ask questions about it. I think it should be mandatory in school to study the Constitution. That's my position. It doesn't have to be true. That's my way of thinking, that it should be part of the school curriculum, that you take civics, like we do in Canada, take civics as part of the curriculum.
Okay.
And have.
I want to address a question that's been asked by Cassandra here. She said, she says that Deacon was an attorney. He wasn't a politician. I'm not seeing the comment now. Okay. And she also said being a politician isn't a prerequisite to be a representative. And I do agree with that. That cannot be disputed. The fact of the matter is, within our political culture, right? Now, you speak into the letter, you speak into the word, but within our political culture, in practice, what we have is two political parties fielding candidates in an elections. Okay? We have two political parties fielding candidates in an election. So the people who are representing those political parties are essentially politicians. Because when you look at the common definition of a politician, it is a person who is active in party politics or a person holding or seeking office, who is seeking office in government. The person is a candidate. So once you within that fold, you are a politician, irrespective of what your profession would have been 1 month ago. But once you get within the realm of the political party and you seek in office, you become a candidate. You therefore you are a politician. That's what makes you a politician. So it's all well and good to deal with the semantics of the word that, politician is not a prerequisite to become representative. We all know that because anybody can get up tomorrow and say that they're running for office. Yes, anybody can get up tomorrow and say that they're running for office and can offer themselves for office.
But at the same time,
and becoming a representative. Yes, that is understood.
But
the reality is, the indisputable fact is that typically, and we could hardly find a case where that is not so, you have people being part of political, and that's the operative word here. You have people being part of political parties and becoming candidates. And ultimately, it's these political candidates who get elected and become parliamentary representatives. So it's politicians becoming representatives and becoming members of members of cabinet. That is our political reality, irrespective of what the letter says.
Okay. I could be a politician, but not be representing my constituency in which I live, right? I could be engaged in political activities. I'm a politician. I could talk about that. I could do that, but I don't have to represent my constituency, right? So I could be a politician without representation. Yes, I could engage in political activities. For example, I'm here and I engage in social justice activities and stuff like that. I probably challenge and raise political issues, right? Like for example, there's a move. The Prime Minister of Canada is making a move now with the healthcare situation. Short staff, for the province to get funding, they had to sign to a certain bill. I can't remember the bill number right now to get funding, and the government wanted to have a one card system, right? Electronic system where everything under one. And to get the funding for your healthcare in your province, you have to sign on to that. So you have everything under that one QR code kind of thing, right? So some provinces not arguing with it, and they think it's a sabotage, holding the province one ransom to get stuff. So I could take a political view and challenge that thing. And kind of canvas support for that. But at the end of the day, I'm not representing no political party or any constituency. But I understand Cassandra's point that she's making. I think we that need to have a bigger conversation on constitutional matters. I think we need to have those constitutional conversation on a more regular and consistent basis. And like Tessa suggested, Let's do it. Well, let's eat elephant one bite at a time. You know what I mean? We can't eat the whole elephant the same day, but let's eat one bite at a time. Probably put some pepper if you need, you know, but we could still have a good conversation where the Constitution is concerned. And I think at the end of the day, we all got to live together one way or the other in Grenada. You know, so let us do what is best for all of us, and let us build Grenada together. I want to make one mention, but I think I know why I think the post going. And I think was Hugh was making a point that he hoped the party tomorrow send a strong message to the government of Grenada in the election tomorrow. So
Well, we see how that go, you know. As I said, I'm up for the position of Assistant General Secretary. So as I close for the evening, I just want to say thank you to first to Brother Amen, who joined us earlier on to share with us on the Livera situation and the challenges that we face there. And you know, it is a discussion that we need to have, you know, because I too have a passion for that. It is against that background that I did participate in protests with the Lasages issue and stuff like that. I think I was even interviewed by the media and all of that kind of thing.
Remember that?
Yes, so we have that situation. I want to say thank you to those who joined us this afternoon for all of the comments and so that really spurred the discussion. It took me further into the afternoon than I intended to. You know, and Brother John liked this kind of thing, and them, you know what I mean? Anyway, thank you, Sister Cassandra, for joining us. And so, let me just say, the Constitution, as you say, the Constitution directs that the constituents return a member of the constituency to the House of Representatives. Yes, the Constitution, the constituents returns a member of the constituency to the House of Representatives. The fact of the matter is that representative typically is a member of a political party who would have been out there campaigning and soliciting the support and the votes of the constituents. So ultimately, you are going to get a politician coming to be a representative. Irrespective of what the letter says, it cannot change that fact. You see, unless there is something that dismantles political parties and so on and so forth, you know. But then, according to the working definition of what a politician is, which is a person who is active in party politics and a person who is seeking office in government, with that working definition, we will always have politicians becoming parliamentary representatives and ultimately cabinet ministers. Okay. So on that note, I take my departure. I close for the evening, for the afternoon. And as I say once again, thank you for joining us. I look forward to more people joining us next time around. Please feel free, share this conversation. Let people be aware of the nature of the conversation that takes place on programs like these, you know, which you don't typically find on other platforms, you know, on GEM-FM, and in particular here on the MTTG show, or the Message to the Grassroots, because we want to ensure that these kinds of messages really reach our grassroots supporters, our grassroots people, our grassroots constituents, so they can have a greater appreciation of the Constitution, of government, how government works, you know, of the politics of the country, you know, and the relationship or lack of it between political parties, how propaganda can influence them even without they being aware, you know, that a particular narrative, or that they're being conditioned, or that they're being programmed, because people are being programmed without even being conscious that that is what is happening to them. So thank you very much once again, and I hope, you know, I wish everyone a blessed and productive week.
Well, that was, thank you, host, for hosting again your show, the Grassroots Show, right? It's the Grassroots with Raphael Paul every Saturday afternoon from 2 p.m. until 2 o'clock, 2 p.m. Canada time. Yes?
Yes. Look at that. I'm seeing one of my nieces, my non-biological nieces, Sheila Baptiste Chase. She is all the way out in one of those states, one of those more western states, I believe, in the US out there.
Colorado.
Thank you, Sister Sheila, for joining us this afternoon. That's one of my non-biological nieces, you know. I have a lot of non-biological nieces and nephews, you know.
All right.
Thank you, Sister Sheila. All right. Have a good one. Okay, bye-bye.
For those of you in Grenada, do follow check out Cookie Pastry Delight and Ben Jones Street in Grenville. Also, Trisha Grant, Miss Grenada. Follow her, and she's a clothing designer as well. So check her out, her design. Check out on Facebook and support her for her bid as Miss Grenada. Also, tonight we'll be back here at the Talking Point Show. Right here with myself, Delbert Baptiste, and a few others will be here discussing tomorrow event coming up, the convention tomorrow. That will be a topic of discussion tonight, right here on Gem FM. So more fire. And this show is brought to you by Ola's Kitchen at 477 Oakwood Avenue in Toronto. All right, so ladies and gentlemen,
all the best. Yeah, Brother John, thank you much. It's a pleasure.
All right.
All right.
Yellow, yellow. Who are the voting? Who are the voting? Just show me something. Just show me something. We have a MP, but it's best we didn't have at all. We don't care about we, and to hell it will stand or fall. Now they ring the bell, we go dance to a different tune. And if we could tell that a change will be coming soon, man, people don't in the south, tiredly from hand to mouth. When God can correct us, then all these stupidness will end. Good representation round the bell, NNP in a hot spot, down in the south. NNP in a hot spot, down in the south. NNP in a hot spot, down in the south. NNP in a hot spot, down in the south. I say yellow people can't see all the way. I say yellow people can't see all the way. Who we voting for? Who we voting for? Cause the ball in the south, the crystal in the south, Lord to creep in the south, Lord to walk in the south. I say Grana's people, Valley people, Motu people, Galley's people, are kind of different for the people. He always say, don't have to pretend, goodwill there in his DNA. The clothes on his back, he will give you one to his own. Man, that is a fact, is what Andy is all about. The poor are marginalized, he will listen to your cries. The young people must rejoice, because they will have a voice. And the William is the only choice. NNP in a hot spot, down in the south. NNP in a hot spot, down in the south. NNP in a hot spot, down in the south. NNP in a hot spot, down in the south. I say yellow people can't see all the way. I say yellow people can't see all the way. Who we voting for? Who we voting for? The mother from the south, the father from the south, the brother from the south, the sister from the south. I say Lions people, Springs people, Cafe people, Woodlands people. They aim in the...
All right, I'm not the host of the show. I'm just the technical operator for today. However, right now I'm the host of Gem FM Radio. This is Gem FM. I'm your host, the Sheriff, yours truly, John Kellys. This is the end of the TTG show with Raphael Paul Pablo from Sunset City St. Max every Saturday from 2 p.m. Canada time until 4 p.m. 5 p.m. Grenada time. So this is where we come to the end of the TTG show.
In a hot spot, down in the south. NNP in a hot spot, down in the south. NNP in a hot spot, down in the south. NNP in a hot spot.
Trust me, lady. Craig, the host stay away from Grenada too long. Trust me. I'm involved in Grenada as much as you are. I'll know and see what's going on in Grenada. Trust me. I got talk every day with Grenadians and almost everything that happened in Grenada on the ground.
We get back to the floor. I say we tired, we want to change, we tired. Oh, yo. I say we tired, and we can't take it again. I'm on, we tired, and we can't take it again. So we moving forward. Move the country forward. With NDC forward.
Yes, let's move NDC forward. Forward. Too long. Let us not get too disgruntled.
Slice and mama guy. Too long.
Let's move the NDC forward. As the man says, Mandela links.
You ignoring the people cry. Too long. All your days since 1995 and you don't do nothing. Only when election time coming, that's when poor people don't get something. From all that bitch and passport you selling, them actions they killing. All you feel like grenade and begging. It's time to call off the winning. We don't need that this time, it can work it. Because we tired and we can't take it again. For people tired and they can't take it again. The youths them tired and they can't take it again. Canadians tired and they can't take it again. So we're moving forward. Move the country forward. With NDC forward. How we going forward. Time for all you to rest. We want a team that is young and fresh. We want to bring out the best. So it's time for all you to press. Pension have to restore. Public sovereignty permanent. Agriculture will grow. Carrico will get government. Local and the deep in the south. Caring and great in the west. And all up in the north. So where we going from here? Andy Williams will move forward. Jonathan Lackett will move forward. Kevin Andrews will move forward. Lennox Andrews will move forward. Deacon Mitchell will move forward. Brother Joseph will move forward. Karen James will move forward.
Yeah, for those of you in Toronto, the Prime Minister of Grenada, the Honorable Deacon Mitchell, will be in Toronto on the 1st of July. Yes, there'll be a gala in his honor happening right here in Toronto. So be advised, yes, that the Prime Minister of Grenada would be in Toronto. It's $250 per ticket. And so $250 per ticket. And it's taking place on the 1st of July. Yes, happening right here in Toronto. I was looking to put the poster, but that's okay. There's a poster circulating the Prime Minister's visit to Grenada, to Canada. And so those of you in Toronto looking to get tickets and stuff like that, later on, you'll get more information tonight at 8:30 on the show about the Prime Minister's visit to Canada. All right, that happened on July 1st, 2023. Yes, the Prime Minister will be here. Okay, and a lot of people will be looking out to go meet and greet the Prime Minister of Grenada. So stay tuned, folks, and be upright, forward moving, forward thinking as we build Grenada one block at a time. Amen to that. All right, folks, blessings. See you later. Black Stallion, stay tuned, stay up. More Black Stallion music right after this.